Welcome back to week 4 of the LEC Spring Split. My pleasure to welcome Foxdrop to the Analyst wall. It's really hard to say. I just want to say desk.
Wherever it is, I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here on the wall with us. Of course, before we move on to our next match, we do have to award Kia of the player of the game for the previous match. And I think it will surprise no one that it was Patrick, 50% of the votes. I mean, you cast the game, you saw it happen, but Draven is a pretty dirty champion.
Yeah, I think, oh man, he completely popped off in the Draven and just put Hiku and Wadid in the dumpster. So.
I mean, that's honestly what it came down to, right? If
Yeah,
wasn't afraid to flash over the wall to go toe-to-toe with the Sylas. Completely a fearless performance. Well, next up, we've got a clash between Fnatic and exceL Esports. Two teams looking to climb in the standings by starting off with a win this week. And interestingly, Foxdrop, both of these teams played Misfits last week, but we saw two very different drafts from both sides. Now, the one I want to bring up first, this one has received a lot of let's say critical feedback already from the community, but I'd like to hear your take on this Fnatic draft.
Well, I mean, are you expecting me to not be critical? Because I'm afraid I have one thing to give you, and it's not that. So this is, for me, this is all over the place because you are drafting 3 losing lanes. I mean, I know we can't see the opponents, but there's a good chance if this is your draft, you have losing lanes, right? So specifically for me, it's like Kai'Sa, when you're sticking Rekkles on this champion, I know Kai'Sa's really high, Rekkles is really high on Kai'Sa. Watching his streams, he thinks Kai'Sa's one of the best champions around right now. But the thing is, it's like, if you want to set this person up for success, you need to make sure that literally everywhere else on the map isn't playing from behind. And that's not really what Fnatic were able to do by picking these champions.
And when we look at it too, I think one of the other picks that really stood out was Broxah's choice for the Zac. And we have to remember that he is going up against Maxlore, an incredibly aggressive jungler, and he blind picks the Zac with the luxury of last pick as well.
And other things were open as well, right? It's not like they completely pinched the jungle pool. I seem to remember that I believe the Sejuani was up when he picked Zac as well. I was a bit surprised. Like, Zac is not usually a champion that you see unless it's run into the Sejuani when you're like, okay, they've picked the best tank jungler, we'll take the mini tank jungler, right?
The second best.
They just really wanted to play Zac. They saw some kind of value in this pick, and for me, it just it fell completely flat, especially when we look at the way it would impact the lanes. kaSing's a champion that if you don't want to get rolled over by the LeBlanc, you need some help. You need some help until that level 9 point, else you're just going to get completely steamrolled, and if you didn't get the help,
and we've seen what kaSing can do when it does get ahead, but it did not get ahead this time. Now, on the opposite side, exceL's draft up against Misfits was incredibly interesting. I want to point this one out now. It felt like a much clearer game plan coming in from this exceL lineup.
And this is the first time as well, if you take a look at the top lane there, the Urgot, it's the first time that they've started expect on something that has a bit more agency, that's a bit more of that, like, listen, fellas, I'll carry you sort of thing. Before he was on, like, the Scion and the Rumbles. So he did really well on the Urgot. We saw the smite still, that was quite nice. But I don't think they drafted for that. But it was a beautiful play nonetheless. But you know, Caedral, this is a guy who's been criticized for his performances in the past, wasn't the best mid laner.
Absolutely.
Last year on HUK, that was a bit of a dumpster fire, if I'm being honest with you. And so now he's swapped over to exceL, and I think the community's kind of like, okay, why are you picking this guy up when there are other free agent junglers around? And to be honest, I think he shut a lot of people up. And in this game as well, he was like 1-0-7. His Drakos was a huge catalyst for the success of exceL. And yeah, a huge reason for why they won.
Absolutely, and I think it's good that you bring up Caedral because this is a guy that we've seen kind of improve over time. exceL has been a lineup that's steadily growing, and I think Caedral has been the catalyst for a lot of that, especially in the upset against Misfits last week. And if we take a look at some of what he's kind of bringing to the table, I mean, you said it yourself. We were talking off screen earlier, but he's this guy who, in the first week, he got really aggressive, and then, oh no, he's getting too aggressive. But it has just been getting better and better each time he sets foot on stage. Yeah,
he was, aggression is a good word to link with Caedral. Is not usually the word tempered before the word aggression. You know, in that first week he played Xin for his first game. Was setting up a lot of plays, had lots of early game pressure, lots of early game impact. Was really good, honestly, overall. And then just kind of started to run it down a little bit as the game went on because he was playing to like solo Q star. You know, wasn't really playing to his team strengths and stuff. But yeah, totally reeled that one in. And these are his misfit stats. You can see him on the board there. 100%. That's kill participation at 15 minutes. Like he's really, he's doing really, really well.
And you see the jungle proximity is incredibly high as well. This is a guy who, if he is not in the play, a play is not happening. And I kind of love having those big catalysts on a team. And I think it is a good look for exceL. Now, on the opposite side, we have a bit of a tough story. Reigning champions Fnatic looking for a fresh start tonight after a catastrophic opening of the season. Remember, second place to, you know, fighting to stay out of 10th place. It's a very tough story right now for Fnatic. And this is an interesting spot because only 4 teams have made it to playoffs after going 1-5 or worse. That's Copenhagen Wolves in 2013 spring, Gambit in 2015 spring, Unicorns 11 in 2016 summer, and H2K in 2018 spring. So they are not down and out yet. There's a chance people have done it before, but it is definitely an uphill battle. And to me, at least from an outside perspective, it really does feel like Caps not being here has cost this lineup so much.
I mean, you're losing arguably the best player in EU or the West. You know, obviously you're going to feel that as a roster. For me, Nemesis had huge shoes to fill, and he's not filled them. But then again, how? How would you fill Caps' shoes? What I do want to say about Nemesis, though, is me saying that isn't even really a criticism of him. To say you're not filling in Caps' shoes, that's as
it's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't
it's
ask that of anyone.
What troubles me looking at Fnatic is that Nemesis is the change. He is the difference between this year's Fnatic and last year's Fnatic, but he's not the problem. Nemesis has not been the problem for Fnatic. Has not been the reason why they're losing. The whole team just looks lost. You know, they're playing without identity. They're playing. They're just nameplates off. These guys just you would not think in a million years this is the same team that went to the World Finals just a few months ago.
Yeah, and I think it is just an incredibly difficult situation for Fnatic. There's a lot of players that we're looking at to step up today. And a win here, honestly, would just be massive for Fnatic. We're looking to pull off a comeback run. Let's see if they can start tonight versus exceL.
Thank you very much, Drakos. I'm welcome to whoa.
Whoa.
I'd also like to welcome Indiana Froskurinn Black to the caster desk.
I know it was like a mouthful, but wow.
Yeah, that was a
choked on
struggle.
that one.
Just had like potato in my mouth or something.
Ah, you're not Deficio yet.
That's true. That is true. Let's talk about exceL versus Fnatic, though. Fnatic, we heard it on the desk. It's not the Fnatic of old. They are not the same team as they were in Worlds, at Worlds.
And I think it's really interesting kind of where the line is when teams stopped, or excuse me, fans stopped defaulting to trust for Fnatic. It's kind of this question almost, if you remove FLICKR from SKT, is it still the SKT? And while a lot of people would associate as like the FLICKR of Fnatic as Rekkles in terms of longevity and career standing, a lot of Fnatic have been defined by some of the most powerful EU mid laners. You think about the Xpekes, the Febivins, the Caps. So it feels that the mid lane is more central to Fnatic's success and their identity than necessarily the core and backbone of Rekkles.
And it's very interesting to see because we had 3 rookie mids come into the year. You had Nemesis, Abbedagge, and you had Humanoid. And both Abbedagge and Humanoid have had standout performances. Like, you only had to look at Humanoid today on the LeBlanc, making plays for Splice. Abbedagge, on the second best team in the league, consistently carrying his weight. And it feels like Nemesis is one of the 3 that maybe hasn't had the opportunity to shine, but also isn't taking the bull by the horns.
I really agree with what Foxdrop was saying on the analyst desk and this idea that it's not Nemesis' fault, it's a team identity issue with Fnatic. So we're looking at, you know, better, stronger drafts. You're looking at more agency and responsibility of the players individually, particularly around the early game, which is why the exceL versus Fnatic matchup is actually really terrifying for Fnatic fans. Not only are you tentatively still on the Fnatic bus and trying to ride that one into a possible playoffs berth, but exceL are such an explosive team in the early game, and Fnatic have just been smashed in the early game.
And I think when I look at it, you have to, when you look at why exceL are so explosive in the early game, you have to look at Caedral. Like, this guy consistently is one of the key carries for his team. He's the guy that gets everything going, and yes, he doesn't donate the kills to his laners, but he takes them for himself. He's the Chad jungler. He will secure the kills, and then he will translate that into...
Did you call him the Chad jungler?
No? Yes, I did. Of course
okay.
I did.
Caedral.
Caedral.
Yes.
That's amazing. But he then translates that lead into advantages on the rest of the map. Like things like his Nocturne pick, things like his Kha'Zix, which have been absolutely devastating.
It's this idea that while they're explosive in the early game, they're still very focused around the top side of the map. You know, this is about Prophet getting these crazy Baron steals. Expect getting these crazy Baron steals, about Caedral being that Chad jungler, and about exceL being a high impact player, whereas Jeskla and kaSing are kind of left to their own devices, whereas Fnatic's have really been completely opposite. It's more so about the bottom side of the map, how much they're prioritizing Rekkles' champions like the Kai'Sa, like the Lucian, trying to find him these key picks. So the question for me is, are we going to continue to see this map split like that? Is exceL going to go all in on top side, and is Fnatic going to try to go all in on bot side?
It's interesting that we talk about exceL as just this ubiquitously strong early game team, because it seems like they have this almost dichotomy within themselves. Right? When they play against good teams, they play really well. Look at Misfits, look at G2, right? They were actually really strong against them. And then when they play against worse teams, they seem to struggle a lot more. Like, they lost to Splice, or Splice in middle of the pack, of course. They lost to SK. They lost to, I'm going to say Schalke, but Schalke just destroyed them.
They
I think
lost to
Schalke, like a very
G2,
good team.
SK, and Splice.
Yeah, SK and Splice, they just didn't look amazing, did they?
No, and it's kind of this issue where it's really hard for me to tell if exceL have some sort of inner genius with them, because I think what they do is they actually hunt and they chase around other teams. When they face better teams than, let's say, or smarter teams, exceL actually looks smarter and better because they're just mirroring where the other team is going, and it makes it look like they're in the exact right spot at the exact right time. But left to their own devices, I don't know if they're as clean as a proactive team as someone like Schalke.
Just as a note, we are waiting for Fnatic. Broxah's mouse actually broke, so we're waiting to get that back on. A new mouse.
Very serious Broxah
I think
smash.
what they should do is check the VoDs, because I think it might have broken 3 weeks ago.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been rough. There's no other way to say it. You can't. At some point, the kid gloves have to come off when you're talking about Fnatic. But again, you just see this organization, how many championships it's printed out. At some point, the cogs are going to fit together.
And they did pick up their first win last week against Rogue. Like, yes, it wasn't an outstanding performance, but they took a lead, they solidified it, and they were able to secure that win in the end. I think the question becomes, like, what were the errors for Fnatic last week? Because they then played Misfits, and a lot of people look at specifically the draft phase of that game and think, what were you doing?
I think it was an issue where they needed a pick to come up against the Cassidy because it was, or excuse me, the LeBlanc, because it was Cassidy versus LeBlanc, and a lot of people like honed in on Nemesis. They're like, what is this scaling composition? Misfits play so aggressive in the early game. What are you doing? And you can kind of see it from Fnatic's perspective. Cassidy into LeBlanc, he's able to chain or rift walk out a lot of those chains. You know that you're going to sack the lane phase, but your idea is that you just survive. And we saw what Schalke did. They survived Misfits early game, and then they just out-team fought and outscaled them. Unfortunately, level 16 never came around for Fnatic on that Cassidy, and I don't think they'll make that same mistake again.
That is definitely the hope, especially since Exile is one of these all-or-nothing players. Like, if you give him a lead, he's going to capitalize on that lead pretty effectively. Other pick I do want to talk about, you talk a bit about picks and bans, is Sylas, Frosk. Because Sylas is 0-2 so far today. We've seen it with Comet in the top lane, we've seen it with Grasp in the top lane, both times have been on the red side, and neither time have we seen this huge, impactful champion that we all expected.
When I saw Sylas be really impactful when I was kind of peeking in on streams, it was actually in the mid lane and usually into the LeBlanc matchup. What's cool about Sylas into LeBlanc as Bjergsen was playing it was the idea that anytime LeBlanc would go in aggressively for a trade using the distortion, Sylas would also just lunge in. So he would just match her W to W and he would just out-trade because in tandem with Grasp and Revitalize, he was just able to heal back and have a big enough shield that it didn't matter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because the Revitalize giving you all that extra healing off the Kingslayer, the lunge with the extra healing if you are below 40%, and the extra damage if your opponents are below 40%. A very strong ability. And my favorite ability, obviously, being from the LEC, Kingslayer is the best ability in the game.
And the teams are obviously still valuing Sylas. He's 100% appearance rate so far, either ban or pick. So despite the fact that he's not working out in terms of execution, I don't think that means that Sylas is just a throwaway garbage champion. I think we've just yet to see him really unlocked. And with G2 and Vitality playing later today, there's still a big chance that someone like Caps, who has really been popping off on his stream with Sylas, can still really showcase this champion's talent and potential.
I mean, we've all seen the Twitch highlight clip where he steals the Scion ultimate and then runs all the way underneath the second tower. Like, it's actually disgusting. Someone that has played it in the supporting role is kaSing, of course, has been known for his unique picks. You look at things like the Zillion that he played a lot last year and still continues to play this year. Maybe we'll see exceL put it down towards the bottom lane, but you wonder, it's a bit like when we used to see Galio support when he was still strong. You didn't really want to play it in support, right? It's so powerful on the rest of the map. Why are you taking it into a supporting role?
It's just one of those things where if you have the potential to quadriflex a pick, it makes it that much more powerful early on in the draft phase. I think that's another kind of trap that teams have fallen down, is when they try to last pick the Sylas into certain things as opposed to using its versatility in draft as a powerful flex pick.
Well, we are still waiting just on Fnatic to finalize. I assume it's mouse settings for Broxah. Have to give him the time to make sure everything is in the right position. But if I were to say to you, Frosk, you can pick a perfect draft here for Fnatic. You're on red side. You're on blue side. So you have a few options. Where are you going? What is your priority in this draft phase?
I want hard CC and engage potential on Nemesis. So something like Lissandra I think would work really well. I'm actually very surprised that Lissandra is slipping through so many ban phases. And then I want a kill-oriented early jungler on Broxah. I actually don't want Fnatic to just put all of their eggs into the Rekkles basket and then try to scale through lane. I want Nemesis and Broxah to pick up a lot of agency, especially against Caedral and Exile.
Just for a note, Broxah's equipment is fixed. He has a new mouse on the stage. He's just completing those settings, as we assume. So hopefully in just a very short period of time we're into the picks and bans. So we want the hard engage for Fnatic. exceL, we've seen Caedral play very well in the early game with the skirmish-heavy junglers. Is that their priority? Are they looking just to get Caedral a good counter-jungle matchup?
I think they're always going to try to curate the jungle matchup in favor of Caedral. He seems to be the X factor for exceL. But I do think that you can rely on people like Exile and expect to really push this team over the top. They've shown that they can be quite clutch players when the moment calls for them. So it's just about how consistently can they find these clutch moments for them to continue to climb up the standings.
And how often do you want to find clutch moments? I think that's a big question, right? Because as an underdog, you sometimes need a clutch moment to win against a bigger team. But eventually, you want your clutch moments to be your 60% moments.
Your
so your
bread and
70.
butter.
They should be your bread and butter, right? That's what we see Schalke do, right? Bread and butter, they will just beat their opponents by having stronger macro play and stronger early game.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't think exceL have the luxury of the stacked rosters that Schalke and G2 have, but there's still a lot to prove. You know, we don't really know what to expect from Jeskla and kaSing's high ceiling in this 2v2 bot.
I have to wait and see. That's going to be a very interesting bottom lane, actually. Rekkles and Hylissang, not their former selves against Jeskla and kaSing, who are still trying to prove themselves as a strong bot lane in Europe. We are into picks and bans. Lucian getting removed here from Fnatic. Akali taken away by exceL. Expect to see the normal bans here, you know, Aatrox, Urgot, maybe even the Sylas.
We've seen a lot of Aatrox and Urgot fall through the ban phase so far, and I'm curious what they're going to curate. With the Kennen ban going down for Fnatic right now, it tells me that Fnatic want that Urgot priority pick because Kennen is one of the big counter picks as a range champion who can match it. So with that information, we know it, exceL obviously knows it, so they can either choose to ban the Urgot here, know that Fnatic will priority pick it, and know that they have a counter pick in the back pocket.
The question is, does Expect have something? We have seen him play the Rumble in the past, can harass out the Urgot, but it's very difficult to win that matchup straight up. Cassiopeia taken away by exceL, just a traditional AD carry / mid lane ban, or bot laner / mid lane ban, I guess. And final ban from Fnatic. Don't expect it to be the Urgot, it's going to be the Alistair taken away from kaSing.
That also means that there's less priority on Kai'Sa. She's usually used in tandem with the Alistair, so again, it still feels like they're trying to curate this moment for an Urgot pick. Unless Fnatic have a different plan, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, there's the Urgot straight away for Bwipo. Great predictions there, Frosk. And I was very interested to see the Vayne ban finally here. I think it means exceL go towards the Kai'Sa because Vayne, known to get a free lane into the Kai'Sa, means he can scale up. They'll take the Sylas and the Kai'Sa straight away.
And that should be a really easy answer for Rekkles to say, it's fine, I still got the Ezreal and the Varus available to me, so there's no huge rush or priority on what goes into that bottom lane, but I'm curious what they'll pair with Kai'Sa to make that a stronger lane. The unfortunate thing about Kai'Sa is she can get bullied around in that 2v2, pending on what Hilly and Rekkles want to curate here.
Instead, they're going to go towards the Xayah. Don't really expect to see a Rakan. It's still strong with the Xayah, but really nowhere near his former self. As a Rakan one trick, I am still pretty aggrieved at our balance team for the changes they did to him, but it is going to be Rakan, so slower knock up on, slower jump in on the W, much slower engage for that bottom lane.
And we've seen a lot of teams completely move away from Rakan, like you're saying, the nerfs to him on the most recent patch, but globally, Rakan's still getting a little bit of love because, frankly, he still does something exceptionally well, which is start fights. And while it's not as powerful as it once was, if Fnatic just want a giant red go button, they do get that with Hilly's Rakan.
So I'm wondering if you just go Galio as well here for Fnatic. You have that ability to jump on the back line. Galio, Camille could be there. Of course, Galio not as strong on 9.2, but we have seen Nemesis put onto it a lot of the time.
I mean, frankly, I would have preferred, again, the Lissandra. I think it's really easy for exceL to ban that away right now because I think that's where Nemesis would go to, or kind of the big champion that's left in draft. And I think you could have picked the Lissandra over the Rakan because, like we're saying, you know...
Who's going to pick Rakan, right? Definitely a surprising turn of events in the pick ban phase. We'll see if it comes back to bite Fnatic. There's the Lissandra ban, exactly as you said, for Frosk. And next up, where are Fnatic going to go with their bans?
I just want a snapshot on this moment. Again, Fnatic have been getting a lot of flack for their drafts. I think it's right here in this moment. If this Rakan Xayah doesn't pay off for them, trading Rakan for Lissandra, to me, is a huge error. I think Lissandra just covers and band-aids a lot of teams' mistakes. And so if Fnatic really tank this game, if it is a drafting issue, I think this is your moment that you highlight.
I think even if they don't win through their Xayah Rakan, like if they lose the game and Xayah Rakan is even, would it have just been better to get the Lissandra? You have to start asking these questions. Next ban is the Ivan coming out from exceL. Not common ban in LEC.
We've seen Ivern cropping up a little bit. I know that G2 has also played it. It could also reveal that something's happening in scrims.
Yeah.
You know, if Fnatic is still playing a lot around Rekkles, Ivern is a jungle champion that really empowers the AD carry and the marksman to take over games, the ability to siege, the ability to protect it. So this could actually just be a forewarning that, okay, you know, we gave up the Lissandra to prioritize Rekkles and Hilly's lane, and Ivern ban comes out. Maybe Fnatic are using that in scrims. So it tells me that Fnatic's game plan is still all about this bot.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense because on Rakan you want to rush the Zeke's convergence, so you can't go for the straight up Ardent Sensor or for the Redemption. Being able to buff up the Xayah is always strong. There's the Aatrox. Could see that towards Exile, could see it towards Expect, or even Caedral in the jungle.
Just the power that they prioritized the Sylas, picked it very early on, so we still have so much flex potential. I mean, like you're saying, this is still a potential of triple flex. That could be Sylas jungle, that could be Aatrox jungle, that could be Aatrox mid, top. exceL haven't revealed any of their hand and empowering themselves for that last pick on red side. Yes, Broxah.
Yeah, I like the Lee Sin. I like it. He's played it once already this split, had a relatively good performance on it. And now you're looking towards the mid lane, something with a little bit of teamfight presence, possibly, but...
He's got LeBlanc available to him. He has Syndra available to him. Looks like it's going to be the stat check.
The stat check.
Syndra's just one of those champions where her damage is so high. She's just like, I'm in the mid lane, I have the R on you, I press you, and I stat check you. Can you survive
Let us check your magic resist versus my damage. Which one wins today?
If yes, win game.
Well, Nemesis has traditionally been a Syndra player, if I recall correctly, on Mad Lions. He's played it once already this split as well, in their only win up against Rogue last week. There's the LeBlanc for Exile, though, so he's taking that skill matchup in the mid lane, going all in aggressive, and Caedral will be taking the Aatrox into the jungle.
And this is what we wanted to see. We know that Maxlor has played the Aatrox into the jungle position. Sylas, again, going towards that top side. We'll check in on the Keystone, if it's going to be the SOAS common, if it's going to be the more common Grasp, or even possibly an Aftershock.
And we saw this exact matchup in the last game, and Prophet really wasn't able to do anything on the Sylas. Like, the Urgot ran him down at level 6, got the kill, and then Prophet had no impact for the rest of the game.
So I want to kind of revisit some of the questions that we set up for Fnatic. What did I want to see them do? I wanted Broxah to take responsibility and agency, early game jungler like a Lee Sin, and I want Nemesis to have hard CC and burst damage. One of the cool things about the Lee Sin Syndra combo is at level 6, basically no one does more damage than you do in your burst. Your ability to pick up Syndra and just walk into the jungle and take whatever you want is exceptionally high if you don't fumble your 1 through 5.
I have to look at that level 6 for Fnatic, whether we'll see Broxah playing around the mid lane once again, and whether they can match up into Caedral and Exile, who have so consistently played through mid on this exceL roster. A lot of questions for me in terms of how Fnatic are going to play out this draft, but I want to just take a bigger picture look at both the compositions. What are they trying to do, and how are they going to win this game for us?
I mean, for me, Fnatic's early game, levels 1 through 6, really rely on Broxah and Nemesis. Post level 6, it's then how do they transfer that big power window into the jungle, and how does it bleed down into Xayah and Rakan, who have such a strong ability to get priority through pushing due to the steroids. On the other side, exceL, it's all about the top side of the map. You have Sylas, Aatrox, and LeBlanc. Sylas has shown that he needs a lot of attention and a lot of love to get going, and I hope that Caedral is ready to give that to Expect.
We have seen Bwipo overextend in the last few weeks, give up some early kills. Will he do it again today? Will exceL be able to find their opportunity to strike in the top lane? Because once again, we jump onto the Summoner's Rift. It's game 4 of the day. Fnatic and exceL both looking for what would be a pretty monumental win in terms of their first half of the split.
I mean, forget the context, forget the asterisks. If exceL can stamp on the resume that they take down Fnatic, it's going to feel good either way. Versus Fnatic, it kind of feels like there's lose-lose situation. You know, unless they absolutely crush exceL, no one's going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
So you might hear the Let's Go exceL chants. I want to say that there are exceL fans in the audience, but I can also see them as the owners of exceL who are chanting for exceL right now. Fnatic chants coming out from the other side as well. But just speaking about Kieran from exceL, in week 1 or in week 2, when he was interviewed, he said about Fnatic.
He's going nuts, Fnatic.
He said about Fnatic, it would be quite nice to put the nail in the coffin for Fnatic. And exceL have been the underdogs since then in the last few weeks, but you have to think if they do take down Fnatic, it's a pretty nice thing to add to your resume.
And it's just easy to get behind exceL because they are an exciting and fun team to watch. I hate when you know, you have more bottom tier teams that just play really slow, boring League of Legends. I'm like, if you're gonna burn quickly.
Yep.
Live fast, die young.
It's not a strategy I implored as a doctor, but I can see how it might work for some people. Bwipo actually looking for the level 1 here. Catching out Caedral on those Razor Beats. We'll try and steal it away with a Q. Doesn't get any of them. Caedral gets 2. Bwipo gets a couple with a shotgun knee, but doesn't get the big one. So does delay Caedral just ever so slightly, but loses out some lane pressure because of it.
I mean, but if you're going to delay the key member for exceL, that's always going to feel pretty good, especially in the Urgot versus Sylas matchup. We've seen this, I think, a couple of times today, and Sylas really just struggles when he is against a ranged opponent. Urgot, one of those strong champions in the top lane, because he can abuse his range.
Exec trading in there, but you can see like shotgun knee is always going to keep Exec relatively chunked out. Has gone for the Grasp of the Undying keystone on the Sylas, so what we expect. We talked about whether Aftershock could have been an option, but getting the extra healing off the Grasp makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is the fairly standard one. Now, Sylas really can't take over and push unless he can get his passive going for him. He can have pretty significant wave control, however. I'm curious if he's ever going to have push priority on the Urgot, or if Bwipo is going to keep him whittled down and poked away, that he doesn't just get to freely use his passive on the wave.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at exactly the state of some of these lanes, because I already see Rekkles building up a bit of a CS advantage down towards the bottom side. We talked about the push potential coming out from the Xayah account. Now, there is a big wave here for Jeskla that he can pick up, but even if he gets all of those, I think he's going to be about 4 or 5 CS down. Maybe a sign of good things to come for Fnatic. Bwipo trading onto Expect. Dodges away with the Epsilon. That's the power of the E. You get the shield as well. Bwipo continuing to trade here. Expect quite low on mana, but has those corrupting potion stacks going. He's already burnt through all of his, though, and Bwipo has 2 in the tank, now 1. And so Expect, you think, will be more healthy at the Bwipo will be more healthy at the end of this trade.
The nice thing about Expect is that with the Grasp and with Sylas's kit, his ability to get a lot of health back, especially as he goes lower, means that if Urgot ever tries to find an all-in and look for the execute, it's actually really easy for Sylas to get back above that under 40%, so he can deny the execute. And I think that's what Expect is really looking for in these elongated matchups across from Urgot.
So a tiny micro thing here. Bwipo and Expect were trading in quite a big wave from the Fnatic side, and Bwipo missed a lot of CS because he was going for the trade. You can see, although Bwipo now has the push, he's actually behind in terms of farm, and if Expect wants to back and teleport in with those corrupting potion stacks back on, he could actually do that. So there's actually a slight gold lead for Expect, even though he's the one that's getting pushed in.
It's just a matter of, can this champion actually be something post the lane phase? Because we heard Odo earlier on that he felt that Sylas really fell down when it came to the big team fights. Now, he does have a lot of ultimates to choose from. I think Urgot ultimate is actually pretty sick on Sylas, as well as the Syndra ultimate. You want to talk about that stat check?
See, I really want the Syndra ultimate to work, but I don't know if you steal her balls.
Does it take her balls?
That's the question. If it takes her balls, that's absolutely incredible. That is amazing, but I don't think it's going to. I think it would only take balls if they're on your side.
I think it's really fun against LeBlanc because it's the last ability used, but it gets super confusing in team fights.
Yeah, it's just, oh wow, that would be amazing. But sadly, we won't see that this game, of course, because Exile is on the same side as Expect on the exceL side of the map.
And talking about just really frustrating matchups, Syndra into LeBlanc, it can be really hard to land those Syndra Qs for a lot of her whittling damage, especially if LeBlanc's flying around the lane, so using distortion to trade rather aggressively and then dodge out on Syndra's damage.
When we talked about agency for Broxah, he gets his patentedly sin and is looking down towards this bottom side. Rekkles and Hylissang push back a little bit. Jeskla's going to face check. He did this last week as well, trying to get away now. Q misses. kaSing will get knocked up, and Broxah's on the chase. Concussive blows. Not going to do too much. kaSing puts up the Unbreakable Ignite, flashed away from, and kaSing escapes. Good escape from exceL, but I've seen Jeskla do this before, face checking into a bush and finding the enemy jungler waiting.
And that's frankly just a team issue that they're not communicating where the jungler would be. It should be noted that it's an Ignite trade for a flash trade, so an easy repeat gank for Broxah. And again, it's all about Hyli and Rekkles.
Expect trying to heal up a little bit here, but Bwipo with the shield from the W, of course. Very easy position for him to be in. Interesting to see him go for the cull early on from that first back. Just realizes he's probably not going to have kill pressure in the lane, just wants to farm it.
It's also about the fact that he can get so much lifesteal back because of how the Cole can work on the purge from Urgot and those shotgun knees, although hold on.
Okay, we'll call it out a little bit here, puts the chains down, we'll pull Broxah back, but Broxah happy enough just to get his own jungle. Expect trading onto Bwipo.
Oh, there's that sick
Stolen
heal.
the ultimate away. Bwipo doesn't even have his own ultimate, and Expect has it now.
So,
just lording it over him. It's like when someone gets your nose as a child, it's like, I've got your nose, I've got your nose. It's like, no, you haven't. I've got your ultimate, I've got your ultimate.
the stop hitting yourself.
Broxah finds Exile here. Level 6 to level 5 though, so Broxah doesn't have the Dragon's Rage. Kick just forces Exile away. He'll have to back. Caedral actually coming up towards the wave here just to keep that safe in the mid lane if needed.
A lot of really unfortunate face checks from 2 exceL members, but I want to talk again about the Cole. The fact that you have the Cole into a very early grasp, again, except is just able to sustain forever in this lane because of Sylas's kit with the Grasp of the Undying as well as Revitalize. By having Cole, Urgot gets to do the same thing. The amount of lifesteal that you get back off of it because it can proc on each one of your shotgun knees is actually really high, so he should be able to just self-sustain up.
Still pretty even between these two teams. A big CS lead for expecting that top lane, about 10 farm or so. He's gone back. He's going for the Sapphire Crystal, and the Cloth Armor. So options are Iceborne Gauntlet. You're going Glacial Shroud, right? So you go Iceborne Gauntlet or Frozen Heart. Don't really see Frozen Heart at all anymore. Could go for the Zeke's Convergence, but I sincerely doubt it. So I think he's going for Iceborne Gauntlet.
Probably a safe bet.
Yeah. Usually we see more just straight AP from Sylas's though. Like I've seen Ludens, I've seen Morellos, I've seen Protobelts.
I mean, again, when I've seen Sylas be really effective, it's when they went full tank Sylas.
Okay.
And they just used their overstacked utility in their kit. But hold on, we have a bit of a roam.
exceL coming down towards the bottom side. He pushes out mid, can just roam down here. He's about 10 farm down, but it's not the end of the world for him in that middle lane. Very even early game here. And we lauded so much about how these junglers are strong in the early game, how they want to do a huge amount, but we haven't really seen that yet. Broxah's still only level 5 though.
And that's the big thing, you know, coming on to 8 minutes in the game to not have access to that level 6, I'm certain that once he finishes this red camp, that'll have it available to him. And that's the big power window for Fnatic in this early game. Again, having access to the Dragon Rage kick and the Syndra ultimate. It's now, what does Broxah do with Nemesis to start moving into exceL's jungle and taking whatever they want? I really want them to challenge this blue buff.
Well, it looks to be what they're doing. I think exceL might realize it's happening because Jeskla and kaSing just came across to place a ward down.
Broxah seems really indecisive here. I'm imagining that something's happening in the comms, and maybe they're trying to track the vision, but with Hilly and Rekkles having full push priority down here, with the blue buff spawn from exceL, and then having 2 ultimates, and now seeing Caedral top, they need to take this.
Bwipo pulled back, has the flash, jumped in with the abscond, expect not going to flash the wall. Didn't want to go all in on that play. Bwipo will clear out this ward. Broxah actually coming up, and this, you lose pressure on the blue buff, right? Because Broxah's had to come up here to try and defend.
And it's not just the blue buff, it's also access to the Infernal. It's still relatively early on in the game, only 9 minutes, so Fnatic are probably saying, we'll trade over the blue buff once Nemesis has this. You know, we're already winning bot lane. It's just something for us to pick up later on, but it still seems not as crisp or as clean in terms of the decisive decision-making around the map.
And something I want to highlight just from exceL in general is that their laning phase has probably been the weakest phase of their game. Right? On average, they are behind in CSD, so creep score differential at the 15-minute mark, and we're seeing a little bit of that here as exceL is behind and Jeskala's behind as well, but we're not going to be able to talk about that too much more as Caedral went in, got Dragon Rage kicked away. And I want to see how exceL keep the gold even in this mid game and then make fights happen. Hylissang going in with the invade. Lots of damage going out to Nemesis. That's first blood. Charm lands onto exceL as well. He's trying to jump away, uses the flash. kaSing lands a good Winter's Bite from the side, but just a little bit overextension from exceL.
In fact, Fnatic just need to recognize that they already won. They don't need to chase and trade back here. And now that you have priority, complete control of the river, what do you want to get in exchange? Is it just the first blood kill gold, which thankfully went into Syndra's pocket? So devastating of a champion to have that, because if she's ever ahead and has 100-0 kill pressure on you, that's just the exact pocket that she wants to sit in.
And that must be pretty heartening for the Fnatic players.
So while Fnatic are able to turn this around quite effectively, this is still some of the growing pains that you're seeing from this iteration of Fnatic. There's nowhere else for Caedral to be. You know that his jungle camp's up, and you haven't rotated quick enough. And so the fact that Broxah actually gets chunked out very early on and isn't aware where Aatrox is, he should have been tracking that. Now, it is a good collapse from Hilly and Rekkles to turn it back around. Again, this is the power of the Syndra, the Lee Sin, having the priority in the bot lane that they're able to clean it up. But that could have been really bad, and Broxah just didn't seem to be on the exact same page with Fnatic. There's still growing pains and gaps here.
And the question is, can they survive through those growing pains? Can they take wins against sort of the lower tier teams while they are still trying to develop? And then when they get to playoffs, maybe they'll be a much more fully rounded, a much more fully fledged team as a whole. You have a 20 CS lead in the bottom lane. You have a 10-15 in the mid as well. That top lane differential has evened out. as Bwipo has been able to find just a little bit more CS for himself. And now Fnatic are going to start up the Infernal Drake. They have the push in that bottom lane. They've got total vision control of the river. It should be an easy enough secure.
And the big thing is that Syndra's ultimate just came back up. It was on cooldown, it just has now ticked, and now that they have that big power, they're going to go for it.
Teleport coming out here from exceL. You can't cancel that anymore, and Fnatic can just jump across the wall. That's an easy enough escape. Rekkles had to use a flash, but then Broxah followed up with a W, and Hylissang went in with his battle dance.
And the huge thing is the fact that Sylas used the teleport down here while there's a massive wave that's pushing onto his tower. So Bwipo feeling pretty good about that one and denying except a lot.
Yeah, definitely very happy to do that. After except had pinned him back in the early game, he's now pretty even. And except actually going towards the Ninja Tabi, so much more that tank Sylas build that we may have expected. Except getting back in time for the cannons actually. Oh! Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah.
Missed the cannon.
Didn't get the cannon, and he also lost a plate. So Bwipo starting to snowball ahead here.
Let's just have a quick look at the gold in that top lane, because before it was about even, Bwipo is now 500 gold ahead or so, which is a very strong position for him to be in, and not one you'd really expect considering he hasn't got Kleptomancy. He's about even in terms of CS, but it just shows how much turret plating can do for you.
And Bwipo's stats really haven't shown a lot of strength that we expect of him. Let's hold on. Speaking of expect.
Yeah, Bwipo pops the ghost. Expect looking for the chase potential here. Steals away the ultimate. Exile gets jumped on in the mid lane by Broxah. Great Sonic Wave from him. Lands straight onto Exile. That's an easy enough kill. Good stuff from Fnatic, and Bwipo actually managed to escape in the top lane as well.
Every pro player, how do you beat LeBlanc? Just CC her.
Yeah.
Walks into the CC and then pops like a balloon.
And have Syndra. Press your R on the enemy person, and they will die. Now, a little bit of damage going down onto Rekkles and Jeskla in the bottom lane, but really just trading here. Fnatic don't need kills anymore. They just want to get these towers down, and then they can open up the map.
And they have the opportunity, but there's no onus on Fnatic to really push this early game ahead and open themselves up to mistakes, because they still have so much scaling potential, and their composition really still thrives in these grouped up fights. So we take another look at this. Unfortunate timing on the distortion and eats the Scatter of the Weak, gets stunned up, and then it's just a very easy setup for Broxah to find the Sonic Wave and then the execute.
And good stuff from Nemesis to clear out the wave there as well. Hits the orb onto it and then chucks out the Scatter of the Weak. Clears the wave, means that Broxah, as you say, can just hit that Q. But like, I think if you're a Fnatic fan right now, you should be pretty happy. This is looking much more like the Fnatic role, not Camp's Fnatic. You don't have this explosive mid laner absolutely destroying everyone. But you are ahead by about 2,000 gold at the 13-minute mark, coming up towards that sort of mid-game where you see Xayah start to come online after she gets 1-2 items. You see Lee Sin having an impact in the early game as well, and it's a very positive moment for Fnatic.
And now Fnatic should be trying to break open these turret platings because it's Ocean Drake that's spawning next. The Rift Herald is much higher priority, so you see Bwipo rotating down into the bot side. They should throw everything in the kitchen sink, force this tower, maybe get a couple of kills, and start rotating their numbers advantage back to top side for Herald.
Oh, Caedral caught out here by Nemesis. Sonic Wave doesn't quite connect. Caedral pops the World Ender. Exile on the flank. Can they do something about this? exceL decide they don't want to take the fight yet. Expect not there.
And this is Fnatic recognizing that they have the numbers advantage since they pulled the trigger early on rotating Bwipo. Sylas doesn't have access to teleport. They know that he's topside, so that's what's giving them the confidence to just roll over exceL's bot lane.
And once again, that early Sylas pick not really paying dividends for exceL. Odoamne said after the 15-minute mark, he isn't really a champion anymore. Well, we're about to crest that point, and exceL will definitely want him to be a bit of a champion for the rest of the game. He's gone towards the Sheen. Expect that to be the Iceborne Gauntlet. Could, of course, be a Triforce. Or a Lich Bane if he really wants to, but I've just given you all the different build paths, and I think we all know which one he's going to go.
We'll just buckle up, Medic, and we'll see where he takes us.
Just enjoy the ride with expect. You just got to believe. Caedral steals away the blue buff. Quickness came in from Hylissang, but the flash was used from Caedral, so he did escape for the moment. But you have to think that Fnatic now rotating their bot lane up towards this top side just continues to keep that pressure down. Yes, there aren't plates for them to take. There are still towers on the map. There's still free gold standing there for them. exceL jumps in onto Nemesis, gets a lot of damage down with the Ethereal Chains, but Broxah here on the chase as well as Hylissang comes in from the side. Broxah, flash kick! exceL flashes away, uses the double distortion. Hylissang, of course, doesn't have the ultimate to chase.
But they do have the minion wave and now free time with this tower as Urgot's also rotating around behind it, so damage already done. They didn't get the kill, but they got exactly what they came for, which means that if Fnatic do get this Rift Herald, they don't have to waste it on the mid tower. This could actually break the game open massively for Fnatic.
Yeah, breaking that second tier of turrets is so much more impactful than just using the Rift Herald on the mid tower. They'll look to secure it now. You can see Caedral on his way down. That Rift Herald isn't that low yet, but kaSing and Jeskla have to worry about the fact that Nemesis is just going to get knocked up over the wall, and the chase is on. Fear Beyond Death will not connect, but there's a lot of damage down as kaSing. Jeskla jumping around. Great stuff from him to escape. kaSing gets away as well, but the Red Smite says not today. Fnatic didn't want the Rift Herald, they just wanted the kill.
Yeah, from bad to worse, and it's just the adaptation of recognizing that exceL were out of position, that Fnatic could continue to take whatever they want. That's now all of the outer towers down, which means, again, if this Rift Herald does fall to Fnatic, which they have full map control, you automatically get to use it on an inner turret.
And once again, we see a Sylas in the side lane, not really doing a huge amount. He's got a bit of a CS lead now. He's starting to chip away at the towers. exceL trying to do what they can on the other side of the map, but the teleport's going to come out here from Bwipo, and he'll be able to push exceL back. 17 minutes in, that's about a 5,000 and a bit gold lead for Fnatic. Probably the biggest gold lead we have seen them have in a long, long time.
And the thing is again, it's the recognizing that exceL were out of position. Broxah was already on the Rift Herald. He's like, this bot lane didn't realize that we're rotating up. So, bit of a huge fumble for cross-map communication from exceL to not warn their bot lane that all of Fnatic was on that side of the map.
Definitely is. The Ocean Drake, this second dragon secured here from Fnatic. They'll have a fiery boy and a watery boy in their back pockets. Caedral, oh, Gromp was almost stolen there by a Gleaming Quill. As a support main, that's what I live for, those moments. Stealing something away with your Q that does like 54 damage.
I feel like MVP was actually that ward in the river that showed Caedral that Rakan was about to come around that corner and throw a Q.
So looking at next steps here, Frost. We talked about it in Pick and Ban. We said we wanted to see Broxah with agency. We wanted to see Nemesis and Broxah team up. They have done that. That is exactly what Fnatic have done. We want to see the Xayah and Rakan pick paying off, and it seems to be so far. But where do Fnatic go from here? You've already broken that first tier of towers. What's next?
Now you pick up Rekkles as kind of like your big cannon, and between the Rakan and the Hylissang and the Syndra, you move around with your Xayah because it's really hard to jump in and try to find any sort of assassination potential on Rekkles. Jumping into a Scatter the Weak, if anyone gets too close, if Broxah doesn't want to use Dragon Rage Kick aggressively, he could just use it defensively, kick them out from Rekkles, and you just have this Xayah walk through people. Interesting that they gave that to Hilly.
They tend to do this, if I recall correctly. I remember seeing them do it quite a lot in summer of last year, just wanting him to be the one to keep it on himself, because the Lee Sin, of course, has the ward, so he needs to jump around.
It's not just the Lee Sin ward jump, it's also nice because it gives you the empowered recall, and it's cool on the support because then you can constantly be refreshing your vision.
And also, if you have a Xayah, you get double quick recall. Dun, 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 dun.
Broken.
Just they breaking the game time and time again. Now, I do want to have a look at exceL, because this early game has been a bit of a struggle for them, and we talk about it so often as Caedral is the key man for this team, and usually he's having an incredible amount of effects. He's almost at 3 kills and assists at the 15-minute mark, is involved in every single kill his team has a gold lead for the team as well, even when exceL actually tend to be behind at the 15-minute mark. But this game, he just doesn't seem to have had the agency, doesn't seem to have had the impact that usually we'd see from him.
I mean, where is he supposed to attack in his lanes? It's Xayah Rakan versus Kai'Sa Braum. That's always going to be dangerous unless you know exactly where Broxah is. His mid laner died early on because she distortioned into a Scout of the Week, so mid lane becomes incredibly hard to punish.
A little bit of a punish on the top side. Expect that she stole the Syndra ultimate. Put some balls down, Nemesis. I want to see the interaction.
Just so he can walk up and press R?
Yeah, I just want to see it. I don't really care if Expect gets the kill. I don't care if they waste the ultimate. I just want to see how the interaction works.
I feel like that's always going to be the case with Sylas. I feel like every time I see him, I clench because I'm like, oh, spaghetti code, please.
What's going to happen? Oh, could you realm warp into someone else's realm warp?
I don't know.
That would be so cool. Oh, League of Legends, guys. It's a thing. Okay, so Fnatic now pushing in the bottom lane. Should be an easy enough tower secure for them. They have the Demolish on Bwipo, and they will just take it down. And this is all Fnatic need to do. Like, we're getting this point now where League of Legends by the numbers is what the teams do in the mid game, right? They say, okay, we have a lead, we're about 5,000-6,000 gold ahead. All we have to do is rotate better and take out towers and set up vision properly.
But exceL have recognized what they need to do, and it's they need to split up Fnatic. They can't fight them on fair footing, so they're trying to shoot Exile into opposite sides of the map. The problem is that they still had access to Rift Herald.
Whoa.
They're still grouped up, they've still got the creep wave, and no one can stop them. There's not enough good wave clear on exceL to slow down Fnatic.
This inhibitors are going to be opened up in 20 minutes. Great stuff for Fnatic. Expect steals away the Fear Beyond Death, but Fnatic don't even really need to do too much more. They can look to push forward. They don't want it for the moment. Don't need the inhibitor. They have a 5,000 gold lead. Baron is on the cards. They set up vision around that pretty easily if they want. Just need to reset for the moment.
And the Dragon RNG spawn is definitely not in exceL's favor. Fnatic reset, know that the Infernal is coming up in a minute. You have a massive gold lead. You have massive item leads. You should just be able to rock up and take this one for free. And if it's exceL challenge, it's definitely Baron. I think they just have to give this one away for free. And it's so devastating that when you look at an Infernal, you're like, I can't go anywhere near that. Here's your, what? What's the percentage?
It's extra 7% because they've already got one. So they go up to 17% AD and AP, I believe.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's pretty darn devastating. Now, if you're looking at exceL though, I'm trying to find signs of hope. You have Sylas. Maybe Fnatic don't know what he does. Maybe they've forgotten his abilities.
I don't think Sylas is the savior here.
Okay, so who is the savior?
I think it has to be this LeBlanc.
Okay.
Where she's going to make these saving plays, it has to be around picks, maybe catching someone out of position.
Here we go. Jumps away. Rekkles just going to be able to get away for the time being, and Fnatic. The thing with Hylissang is on Rakan, you're so safe all the time. Because even if you get caught out, you battle dance to the Xayah, and it's literally about the width of that lane that you can jump. And then you have your W as well, and you have a second battle dance. So it's actually very easy for Rakan to get out of trouble. It's the same reason he's such a good initiator as well, because you can get so far into the backline.
Okay, so time has come, exceL. You just have to give up. You can't contest for this dragon, but what can you do while the dragon is being taken? Now, what they should be doing is they should be walking over and trying to lay down vision around the Baron. And you can actually see that's what kaSing wants to do. He wants to clear out his own jungle, make sure that all of the aggressive wards from Fnatic are out of here, and then he wants to get some wards onto the Baron, because right now exceL are hoping for the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
They want Fnatic to fumble a Baron and for them to get their foot back in this game.
I mean, they don't really have a huge amount of tanks on the Fnatic lineup. Like, you're looking Black Cleaver, Broxah.
But the thing is Fnatic don't have to have the Baron to close out the game. Because they have a long-range AD carry like Xayah, and then they have the protection of Syndra with Scatter the Weak, they can actually continue to siege if they don't want to take a possibility at a Baron play.
It's an interesting little dance that Jeskla was gracing us with there. It's not one I've seen too often. I expect continues to go down the tanky route. You've got the double items on Rekkles that we talked about, rapid fire cannon into Stormrazor, Banshee's Veil as well on Nemesis, so just trying to keep exile from nuking him on the LeBlanc. But we have seen LeBlancs do it in the past. Fnatic will now push up, get the vision up towards this top side. It's the only tower left outside of the base of exceL, so that should be Fnatic's next objective.
And again, it's about then pushing in the triangle vision. Hilly really wants to move in and clear out these wards. He does need to pay a little bit respect, though. They don't have information about where everyone on Expect is. He could walk into a trap. So I like the fact that he is waiting for Broxah.
I want to ask a question, Fosk, and I'm going to do it because I want to. Who scales better?
I mean, there's scaling options for both sides. It's going to come down to execution, and I would still say that Fnatic are better team fighters than what I've seen from exceL.
If we get to 4 items apiece, who scales? Oh my god! Exile's dead. Rekkles flashes forward for it. Exile actually almost gets away, but Rekkles gets the kill. That was great reactions from Hylissang. Expect actually stole the quickness as well and just used it to run away. So that's his ultimate down. And Fnatic's execution definitely coming out on top here. Baby on death used by Bwipo, but couldn't quite find the connection.
I mean, scaling doesn't matter at this point in the game when there's a massive gold lead closing on 10k in favor of Fnatic. So, I mean, if the LeBlanc jumps in on Rekkles and just gets absolutely blasted by the Xayah Rakan duo, you don't have a lot of hope left.
It felt a lot more like seeing Hylissang of old there. The reactions were absolutely on point now. exceL, last week you stole a Baron against Misfits. Can you do it again? It's on Expect, hasn't got the Unsealed Spellbook this time. Caedral can get into the pit, of course, dashing across the wall. 3,000 HP left on the Baron, 2,000 now. Fnatic waiting to secure it. They have the Hylissang Sonic Wave kick.
Yeah, Broxah just needs to go over this wall, kick him away, and then smite.
Caedral kicked away, he smites it.
That's how you do it, Broxah.
Frosk, have you got a monitor 5 seconds ahead or something? Because you predicted that perfect.
To be fair, there actually is one, but I never look at it.
It's not 5 seconds ahead anymore. It's only 5 seconds ahead at the start of the game.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I thought you were taking the piss.
No, I was trying to compliment you.
Oh, thanks. I like your hair today, Medic.
Thanks, Frosk. I like your casting partner. Let's have a look at the replay.
Surprise, Hilly's on a control ward. You didn't see him. I like this bait.
Yeah.
You know, Rekkles is like, I love eating up creeps. I love looking delicious. I'm high in fiber. Come get me, Exile.
And just a poultry matter to clean it up there from Rekkles. And then Fnatic started the Baron, of course. Now, they can go for the 1-4 split. You see that so often with an Urgot. They can also just barrel it down as 5 players. You know, they don't actually need to split this up too much. But I think going and splitting 2 lanes makes a little bit more sense against exceL.
And again, the sieging potential of Fnatic's composition is really strong. This has been just such a crisp and clean game from Fnatic. Again, I feel like they fumbled maybe a little bit some of their early game, not being as proactive as I would have liked them to do, but otherwise a much better look from Fnatic this time around.
Already opened up that inhibitor tower in the bottom lane. Bwipo on the front line. Takes up a little bit of damage, but he's just going to purge and get that shield up. There's the inhibitor down. exceL. Oh, I thought he was going to fall there. Nemesis does have the ult, but still holding on to it. Expector stolen away the Dragon's Rage kick as well. Second inhibitor the target for Fnatic, and exceL really can't do too much about this. They'll give it up. The ghosts of their base just screaming in agony around them.
Clean fundamentals. Yeah. It's crossing your T's, dotting your I's. Fnatic now rotating to the last outer standing tower.
Do you know what the dot on an I is called?
No.
It's a tittle.
It's a funny word.
It's a funny word. It is the word for the dot on I, though. And that's what Fnatic are doing, as you say. Just rotate up towards top, still have Baron for a minute and a half. exceL trying to do something about their wave, but it's so hard to clear away when it's bound up.
And it's just really high risk, really low reward for exceL to take any sort of team fight here. They just want to clear the wave safely and try to survive to fight another day, but if they take a single bad fight, the game is over. So they're just going to siege, try to stall out the Baron, and Fnatic can just push forward.
I think a really good sign for Fnatic is how patient they were with that play. They had a cannon wave coming in, but they didn't want to go for it. Caedral, though, trying to get onto the backline. World Ender comes out as well. And that's a lot of damage on towards the Aatrox. Vibion's death doesn't connect, but exceL went for the engage to get nothing out of it. Fnatic still basically full HP. Bwipo just tanking up the chains. That's the third inhibitor tower down. Super minions pushing in the side lanes as well, and Fnatic are looking for their second win of the split. This has been a tumultuous LEC Spring Split for them, but now much cleaner, much stronger. Fnatic seem to be back in action and coming back fighting against exceL.
And this question is this dominant victory over exceL enough for Fnatic fans to get excited about this team, enough for us to forgive them of their previous sins in earlier weeks, because they looked pretty hot today.
They definitely did. Broxah gets the kick away. Just trying to get the final fights off. The Nexus goes down. Fnatic with their second win as they fell exceL here in week 4. And I'm not excited yet, Frosk, but I'm definitely less worried than I was at the start of the game.
Just get the wins on the board at this point. It wasn't the win in the same way that we've seen G2, Misfits just absolutely take over early game. Schalke, they're commanding victories through their team fighting, but it got them on the board, it's climbing up the standings, and all we want from Fnatic right now is life.
And it was almost a perfect game. Only 2 towers in it before they, if they hadn't lost the 2 towers, they would have had a perfect game. Unkilled throughout the course of that match. And I just think if you're Fnatic, you look at it and you think, okay, they got a lead, and then they did what teams should do with a lead. And that's encouraging, especially coming into tomorrow as well.
Still interesting that of the drafts that they're doing it with, the priority on the Xayah Rakan when pretty much every other LEC team has kind of moved away from it, giving away a Lissandra in second phase ban when they could have prioritized it early on, knowing that Nemesis had the Syndra available to him. I like the fact that they gave him the Syndra Lee Sin combo, so it's just curious as Fnatic start to climb up the standings more, start facing these top teams as we rotate over into second round robin, if these draft tendencies are going to punish them against players who are just as good as them. Because right now, they're just punching down on exceL.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think exceL have shown us that they can be a very strong team, but when they fall behind, they kind of lose the agency to play incredibly well. They just don't seem to be a team that can be in a losing position and find a play to get themselves back into the matchup, right? So Fnatic, of course, play up against G2 tomorrow, and if they do anything but lose there, I think that is an incredible performance from them and will bolster their fans no end. That's when I get excited. If Fnatic put up a good performance against G2 tomorrow, that's when I'm intrigued by this team again.
And you also have to think, if you're Fnatic and you're preparing for your week, who are you going to put more preparation into? Is it going to be for exceL or is it going to be for...
I mean, honestly, if I was Fnatic coming into this week, I would have prepped 5 days out of 6 for exceL.
Really? Because you sign off that the other one's a loss?
Like, I'm going to lose to G2. G2 are just too strong for us at the moment. I want to make sure I win. I want to make sure I go 1-on-1. I prep for exceL.
I understand what you're saying, but I just feel like I'm trying to hold on to the hope that maybe like a composition like this was Fnatic kind of hiding their cards and they can play that early game style that the top teams have kind of dominated the LEC with, because until I see that, I'm not ready to fully buy into the Fnatic hype train again.
I do not blame you at all, Froskurinn. We're going to have a look at some of the highlights from Fnatic's mid laner in that game. Nemesis actually had a very strong performance, teaming up with Broxah really well, especially around this level 6, level 8 mark.
They just knew exactly what their responsibility was. Again, I think Broxah got caught out a little bit. It felt like they lost track of where Caedral was, but it didn't matter because they collapsed and they fixed the mistake. Nemesis getting a good catch on Exile here as he went for the distortion in, and then just a clean setup, like you said, clearing away the minions for Broxah to find that Q.
And I think we have to give a little bit of credit to Youngbuck and their drafting staff as well, because we said, is the Xayah Rakan worth giving the Lissandra up? They worked well with the Syndra. Maybe the Xayah Rakan, it wasn't so impactful that it won them the game, but having that push pressure in bot definitely impacted the way that Fnatic could play.
Yeah, and as long as they know what their game plan is and they execute on it, I can't ask for much more from a team.
Well, if you think someone did better than Vedius on Nocturne in the mid lane, okay, so I mean that's someone played the game. Someone didn't die like 10 times.
What is our script writer just hard flaming Vedius?
Okay. Hit us up at Esports on Twitter with your key player of the game. We've narrowed it down to Broxah, Nemesis, and Rekkles. It's going to be exciting to decide who the player of the game is, because I think you could give it to Broxah or Nemesis. I think it's one of the two.
I mean, it felt like everything was really about Rekkles eventually, just kind of like picking him up. But I do agree that Nemesis and Broxah were kind of like the key players to make sure that that snowball started going.
Exactly. If you have a game where you only get like 5 kills and 3 of them come through Nemesis and Broxah. But after the break, Broxah and Bwipo will actually join us for picks and bans in our match of the week. It's
Nice.
G2 up against Vitality. It's going to be a very good one. But to learn more about Fnatic's wing, let's get some thoughts with their support.
Thank you very much, Medic. I'm joined by Hylissang. First of all, congratulations on the win. Very dominant, very one-sided. Let's start with picks and bans. I know the casters were asking some questions, like giving up Lissandra and taking Rakan. We've seen Rakan take a much lower priority on this patch. Was this something that you guys were discussing in the draft, and did you think it was as risky as we felt it might have been?
Yeah, we don't mind playing Rakan into Lissandra because I feel like Rakan is pretty good peel support, and Lissandra has to go in, and then she can get knocked up and charmed and maybe die. I think Rakan right now is pretty good, actually. I know that he got nerfed a bit and he's like slower and stuff. It's just, I think, harder to play, and the playstyle is a bit different than before. You need to be just more careful on your own, for example. And yeah, I think it's a pretty good champion.
You think it's harder to play? I actually have a clip, if we can get it up on screen, of you catching out Exile in the mid lane. Harder to play sounds a bit nonsense, because you absolutely smashed that game. Like, did you know this was happening? Was this a bait, or was it just reaction?
Yeah, I actually knew that LeBlanc was in the bush, and they were looking for a play on him, so I was like ready to jump and ult him, and I was confident that I can get him mid-air. And yeah, it was out, and I think he survived a bit longer than he should have, so I probably should have ignited him. But yeah.
I absolutely love that, by the way. I think we should have killed him quicker. That's such a good way to end that replay. Hylissang, what does this win mean for you and the team, knowing that Fnatic have had a slow start to the split?
Yeah, this win is pretty important. Like at this point, every win is like really important, and we should start picking some wins. And I think Rakan would be a good weapon, because now people will probably start banning it, because I feel like very confident on just picking Rakan, and if enemy can answer with it and beat me, then yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, especially if you play like you did today. I have one last question. G2 Esports are setting up behind you. They're taking on Vitality. Who's going to win the match and why?
G2, because Caps is a smurf.
Well, there we go. You've heard it from Hylissang. Congratulations on the win. I'm going to hit to an ad break, and when we come back, G2 take on Vitality.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, Exile gets jumped on in the mid lane by Broxah. Great Sonic Wave from him, lands straight onto Exile. That's an easy enough kill. If we get to 4 items apiece, who scales? Oh my god. Exile's dead. Rekkles flashes forward for it. Exile actually almost gets away, but Rekkles gets the kill. Yeah, he definitely did. Broxah gets the kick away. He's just trying to get the final fights off. The Nexus goes down. Fnatic with their second win.
We are powered up.
Get the Baron buff power play with Shell V-Power.